So that is when I decided that I'll start blogging. And then I made some sponsored posts and so on. So that's how I used to start earning. Because it's not important that you should stick to the same domain that you have already chosen, but I think you should just do whatever you're more passionate about. So I'm heavily involved into engineering and DevOps or anything, right? Anything related to engineering, I'm into it. So a lot of grunt work can be done using AI, but what I feel is that AI is just a helper. It is not it is not so good that it can replace an engineer.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the latest episode of GIBS IRE Talks podcast, powered by GIBS Business School, Bangalore, a place where innovation meets inspiration. And I'm Professor Sandeep Bansali, your host for today. Today we have a personality who is a tech-savvy person, a tech innovator, and a co-founder as well as the CTO of ClearFeed, transforming how organizations manage support. Starting as a top tech blogger, later he worked with Qbol as well as Udaan before launching the ClearFeed. Backed by Peak XV and 8VC, he has gained deep insights into hiring, product building, as well as scaling the startups. So let's welcome our today's guest, Mr. Lalit Indoria. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure having you today with us.
Thanks for having me.
And Lalitji, I was really very surprised that I see you are from a mechanical background. You did your engineering in telecommunication, electronics and communication, right? So from Chennai, and what made you to move to Bangalore, sir? Just would love to understand on that.
So actually, I was in touch with a lot of bloggers when I was in college. So I had started blogging while I was studying in the college, and then I got in touch with a lot of entrepreneurs also. And what I realized was that Bangalore is the right place for me to be in because of the startups and the kind of culture that we have here.
True.
So I decided that we should move here. Plus, my dad also he got a job in Bangalore.
Okay.
So first he moved in, and then I completed my graduation, and then I moved in.
So could you just help us with what was your upbringing been till now? Where did you do your education from?
Right. So I studied in Chennai.
Okay.
Both schooling and college was in Chennai.
Okay.
So school I used to be like in the top 2 rank.
So you were studious from the beginning.
Yeah. So very studious in school, and in college I was not very studious. I kind of didn't have interest. First of all, I didn't know what should I study. So I chose electronics because my brother was in electronics. So I thought, maybe I'll just reuse his books and notes. You don't have to do anything. So I just joined electronics without giving it much thought. But now I realize I shouldn't have done that. I should have taken up computer science because that's my primary area of interest.
True.
But 1 year later, I realized, I want to do something else. So I don't want to just study and get a job from the college and then move on. So that is when I decided that I'll start blogging.
Okay.
So I got conditioned into a different kind of environment where I knew how to make money online.
True.
And it was a very foreign concept in India back then because people didn't believe that you can make money online.
Very true.
So, but then I started making money through Google AdSense. And then I made some sponsored posts and so on. So that's how I used to start earning. And for the next 3 years, I did the same thing. I was just blogging. And after that, I thought, now it's time to do something else because I understood how a business works. So then I joined a startup here in Bangalore, and then that's how the rest of the journey was.
So as you mentioned one thing, that you never intended to do your engineering, right? And today when we see a lot of our students, if we specifically say, most of them, or even in India, most of them are not aware what specialization to be chosen, what course to be chosen. As you rightly mentioned, since your brother was doing. So similar is the case with most of our students in India. So would you like to tell that few pointers where they can look before choosing any of these specializations in terms of streams or in terms of specialization? Would you love to share any thoughts on that?
Right. So I think that has to be mostly figured out during your schooling itself. back then things were different. There was not much of social media, not much of internet, and so on. So the amount of content that you could access is very limited to the people around you. But now, because there's so much content online, so you can easily figure out what you really want to do. So I know that there are some programs also people run just to help you decide like what is your interest, and in school also it happens a lot. So I think when you're in school you should try looking at what are the different kinds of studies that you can pursue in future, and figure out like what is your area of interest. But even if you've chosen one, like I did electronics, right, and if you realize that that's not the one, then you should change your track. Just go into what is more interesting, because it's not important that you should stick to the same domain that you have already chosen, but I think you should just do whatever you're more passionate about.
True. So I'm sure a lot of our students would understand that it's okay. I mean, if you have taken the course, if you're still not liking, that's still okay. You still have a chance to move on.
Yes.
Right. So I just want to understand, so you've been into startups and founding the one new. So what is the difference? What is the journey it went on when you say working for a startup and then forming one for yourself?
Right. So thankfully, it's not very different, because if you've worked in an MNC, then it's a little difficult to start a startup, because you have to learn how to run a company from the beginning and so on. But if you've already worked in a startup, you know how things work, what kind of work culture you should establish in your company and so on. So that way it is not very different. But yeah, I mean, being a founder is way different from being like a software engineer, like how I was, right? So if you're a software engineer, your impact is limited. You do only limited things, right? But once you become a founder, you have to do like almost everything in the company, whether it comes to hiring, marketing, sales. Like, you have to be part of everything. So that is the major difference. And if you're willing to do that, then you can be a founder. But if you just want to stick to what you're doing right now, then it's better to just do a job for some time, get some experience, and then realize, okay, now I'm ready to start a company, and then you can do that.
Okay. So since as we have seen, as you said, that multiple domains a person has to undergo when they are into startups. So what were your domains when you were in Kubol, or probably the Udan when you were in the previous organizations?
So in previous organizations, I was mostly into software engineering only. I didn't do anything else. It's only after starting ClearFeed that I have been doing a lot of different things.
So how is your experience being till now, after doing a lot of things, since you have to manage finances, marketing, clients? There are a lot of things as an owner, as a founder, you'll have to do it. So what are the things which you would say, okay, these are the best part of your business till date?
So I really enjoy engineering, so which I did even before starting ClearFeed. So I'm heavily involved into engineering and DevOps, or anything, right? Anything related to engineering, I'm into it, right? Or whether it is QA, or I still write code. So, but I don't like write that much. The only thing is I don't get enough time to write code now. But whenever I get time, it's like, for me, it's like relaxation. So I just write code and I feel I'm relaxed.
True.
So that is what I'm passionate about and I enjoy doing. But apart from that, I'm heavily involved in hiring and also product. So these are the other two areas that I focus on every day.
Nice. So currently, your organization is helping people for a lot of various features, right? So would you elaborate a bit on that? What are the features generally?
Right. So ClearFeed is a chat-based help desk software. So it is different from the conventional support systems like Zendesk, Freshdesk, and so on, because ClearFeed operates on Slack. Slack is a tool everyone uses within their organization to communicate. So our thesis is that if you can just stay on Slack all the time because you're already on Slack chatting with people, why not also do support through chat, right? Because what we think is that email, filling up forms, etc., are a thing of the past. The future is moving towards chat. And with a lot of AI baked into the system, right, it is much more easier to chat and achieve very high efficiency, whether it is about solving tickets, creating tickets, or anything else. right? So this is what we believe in, that the future is on chat, and that's why we start ClearFeed, and that's what ClearFeed helps people do. You just chat and get things done.
Get things done. So how, I mean, I'm really very curious to know, how did you meet all the three founders? I mean, how did you start? When did you got thought that, okay, let's all three of us start? I'm sure
Right.
all three of you studied from different institutions. So how did you get that bonding amongst yourself?
Right. So Joydeep and we were in touch with each other for a long time, because I worked in Qbol, and
Okay.
Joydeep was the founder and CTO at Qbol also.
Okay.
So this is his second company. So I was in Qbol for around 5.5 years. So I had worked very closely with Joydeep, and after that, I had moved on to Udan. And after a few months in Udan, like, Joydeep approached me and he said, let's do something different. Let's try to solve some of these problems that we have faced in previous companies. And that's when we identified this particular problem about,
Okay. So any specific challenges you have come across while starting, since it's a completely a new process, I would say. So what were the major challenges or hiccups you have come across while setting up this organization?
So initially, the challenges were more around trust and getting people to use your product, because we were selling to other SaaS companies, and they are, so they look for a lot of signals to figure out whether this company is trustworthy or not. And we were also focused on selling in the US. So initially, people would just ask us questions like, do you guys have funding? Like, how long will you last? How many employees do you have? How will you support
True.
us for a long term, right? So there were a lot of trust issues, and also, we were getting a lot of feedback around products. So we were trying to figure out what is the right thing to build that will help a lot of people. So and then we solve those problems by, we got our SOC 2 certification, which helps people build trust that this company is serious about their business and security. So that's how we started acquiring customers in the beginning. So first we got this certification, then we started acquiring some customers. The other challenge we faced was in hiring, especially in engineering. It was very difficult to get experienced people to join us. A lot of people were, very much focused on getting a more stable job, so they would prefer for larger companies.
Larger company.
So that was a major challenge. It still is, but not to that extent. Now we are able to attract a lot of people in the market, but back then this was a challenge. So we started the company with mostly junior folks.
Okay.
And the best part is that the good ones are still with us.
Wow.
Right? So even after 3 years, they are with us, and they are a part of the core team. And they have also helped build the culture in the company. Right? So these were the major challenges.
So you happen to mention about the funding, or so would you love to elaborate a bit on funding? Like, was it a bootstrap, or I think you've also got funding from various investors. So what was the approach when you pitched your business idea to the investors?
Right. So initially we were bootstrapped for a few months, and we didn't even plan on getting funded. But like I said, hiring was a problem. So people would think like, how would these guys give us salaries if they're not even funded? So then, we thought, okay, maybe it's better to get funded. It will also help us acquire customers, plus we can attract talent. So we got funded by Peak 15 and 8VC. So these are well-known VCs. So we got funded, and the way we got funded was that we had posted a job on Wellfound, and that's how Peak 15 figured out that Joydeep has started a company. The job was posted by him, so we were scouted by them. So they reached out, and then they asked us, like, what are you building, and so on. So one of the partners at Peak 15, Roy, is a close friend of Joydeep. Okay. So he just pinged them, and that's how the conversation started. And then we got.
So if you have to start a new venture tomorrow, I mean, leaving your existing positions in the current organization, if you have to start a new organization, or if you would love to give a message to all new, I would say, startup founders, or rather, as a student, if I am thinking to start a venture, so what approach would you suggest me or probably anybody who's looking forward to start a venture?
So the first step is to just figure out what problem to solve, and if you really want to solve if you want to build a big company, then it's important to figure out a problem that will help a lot of people, right? It's important to do a lot of user research before even starting the company, and from that research you have to figure out what kind of product will sell, right? So you would have to ask questions like, if you have this product, how much will you pay for this, right? So that you can understand how big of a problem this is. A lot of people will also say that, I have this problem, I want a software like this, but the moment you ask them, how much will you pay, that's when they realize that, whether I really need the software or not.
True.
So you will have to figure out this problem first, and then once you know that this problem resonates with a lot of people, then it's just time to start building, and building seriously, right? So you have to go all into building a solution for that problem, and you should totally believe in it, right? And after that, I think it's more about execution and storytelling, right? So you have to make people believe that that your solution will work, whether it is your VCs, your employees, or anyone else, right? Your customers, everyone has to believe that this solution will actually work. So if you can do all of this, then it will be a very smooth journey, right? So
Okay.
there will be other challenges, of course, but you can figure out how to solve them.
So currently you are in a hub of startups, I would say, and I'm sure your office is in HSR,
Yes.
which is again, I would say, the right center of all these startups.
Right.
So when you see a lot of startups in and around, so what kind of culture do you see there?
So there are a lot of events and groups and so on in HSR itself. So that is actually helpful, and there are a lot of meetups that happen. So you can connect with a lot of founders. The good thing is that because you are in that kind of location, you can learn from other founders. What are they doing to solve the kind of problems that you are facing? Right? Some of them would have solved it in their own startups. So it's very easy to network and figure out what works or what does not work. So that's the main advantage.
So what would you think? What are the major differences when you say starting a startup and working for any of the organization as an employee?
Right. So the major difference is, like I said, that you have to do a lot of things if you are a founder. But if you're doing a job, then you have a fixed set of responsibilities. If you fulfill them, then you're doing well. But as a founder, if your company does well, it means you're doing well, right? If your company doesn't do well for whatever reason, right, it typically means that you didn't really do well, right? So the set of responsibilities is completely different. There is this, so if you're an employee, you would probably get a performance review done by your manager and so on. If you're founder, then your performance review is actually from your customers, right? Whether customers love your product, whether the company is growing and so on, right? So a lot of things change that way, but you also get a lot of freedom, right? So you may not get that kind of freedom if you are an employee. Also depends on what kind of company you're working in, but in Bangalore, at least, I've seen that culture that employees have a lot of freedom. But once you are a founder, you have full freedom about how you want to run the company. So
when we speak about, as you mentioned, the freedom, right? Generally, there's always a mindset that 9 to 5, I'm an employee, right? So what do you think, if as a management B school, we teach a lot of students, and being GIBS IRE Talks, which majorly speaks on innovation, research, and entrepreneurship. So what do you think, what are these three factors, how important are they in the startups when you speak about innovation, research, and entrepreneurship?
So I think innovation and research. So are you asking from the mindset of an employee? Or
no, I'm asking you with a perspective of a startup founder.
Right. So innovation is super important, because without that, there is no business, right? I mean, if you're not innovating and you're doing something that it has already been done, then it will not, the product will not work out, because there are already others who would have solved those kind of problems. So you have to think of something new. You have to think of where the market is moving, right? And that's where this research part also comes in. So I think these are pretty important.
And
Yeah.
your platform is AI driven, right?
Yeah.
So next, now another 5-10 years down the line, AI gonna be everything is what we keep hearing. So if you have to suggest us something like, okay, these are basic AI things which any individual must learn. So anything which you have in mind that you would love to
Right.
recommend?
So I can talk from different perspectives. So if we talk about engineering, right, then AI is a great helper, right? So whatever an engineer could do, let's say in 8 hours back before the AI era, right? Now people should be able to do in, let's say, 6 hours, right? So a lot of grunt work can be done using AI, but what I feel is that AI is just a helper. It is not at a it is not so good that it can replace an engineer.
Engineer.
So a human review is always required for anything that we get done, right? Whether it is about marketing, writing content, or reaching out to people, sales and everything. Human in the loop is always required. So I think that AI is just a helper.
Okay.
Now, but what I also feel is that you can use it for a lot of things, right? In every function, you can use it, but you can use it to become more productive.
More productive. So I would say you have given a sense of relief for all those people who think that AI is gonna take away their jobs or
Right.
their work. So I'm
Right,
sure it
right.
can act just as a support system for you
Yes.
to make it even more productive, I would
Yes.
say.
Yes.
So moving ahead, just love to understand what's next for Mr. Lalit or for the ClearFeed. What are the future plans you have for now?
So future plans is that we are rapidly adding more features to our product, and also acquiring more and more customers. So we don't have a presence in the US right now, but we would love to do that in the future. And yeah, we just want to grow the business.
Okay, so any specific, I mean, on the last bit, I would love to understand if you could give us some messages for all our audience who've been watching this. So, any advice would you love to give for being on the entrepreneurship or probably the startup or the AI as a segment?
Right. So yeah, I think what I would say is, like, especially for students, right? Like, some of them can just start with the company right after they graduate and so on. Right? We have seen examples of Zepto's founders. Right? They just started right out of college. It is still possible to build a business from college now that we have access to a lot of content and education online. A lot of people are also afraid that if I start a company, will I get funded?
True.
How will I get funded? Right? But I think that is not the right way of thinking. The right way of thinking is that whether you can solve some problems, and if you can build a company around that, then don't worry about funding. Right? That will come your way. So don't seek for funding. Just make sure that you're solving the right thing,
Right problem.
and you will get funded. Now, a lot of experience will also come when you start a company, right? It's not like you can learn something and then you can start a company. You start a company and then you learn.
Then you learn something.
So, and that's the most important thing. Yeah, and regarding AI, I think everyone should just use it because it is going to make everyone more productive. So, just use it as a helper.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Lalit. It was really great having with you. I'm sure all our audience would agree that they've learned a lot of new things about how does the AI industry work, what it takes to become a startup founder. And I'm sure he had an amazing journey right from being an employee to an employer today. The journey is really incredible and looking forward to learn a lot of new things from you, Mr. Lalit. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
in.
you. Thanks
It
for
was a
having me.
pleasure having you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And that's how entrepreneurship goes beyond building a business. It's about innovation, resilience, and impact, as Mr. Indoria has shown us today. His journey reminds us that the real success comes from solving the real problem, hiring the right people, and creating the products that the customers love. Let his insights inspire us to embrace the challenge, take bold steps, and build something really big and meaningful because the future belongs to those who dare to create it. And don't forget to like, subscribe our channel at GIBS Business School Bangalore. And do follow GIBS IRE Talks Business School on all social media platforms to stay updated with the latest updates and insight. Thank you so much. See you soon once again.